Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really profoundly sad and complex case from the Philippines. It's a story that, well, it starts with an act of kindness, but spirals into just unthinkable tragedy.
Mm.
Involves a family, trust, betrayal, and murder.
Right. And to guide us through this, we've pulled together a few key sources. We've got a detailed Wikipedia article that gives us the core facts, the timeline. Then there's a true crime blog post, adds some really specific investigative details, and a very moving interview where the parents at the heart of this share their personal journey, their perspective. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. So our mission here is to navigate these sources for you, pull out the crucial facts, the surprising turns in the investigation, the legal outcome, and maybe most importantly, the deep human story behind it all. We want you to quickly get a really comprehensive grasp of this complex case, move beyond just the headlines. And trust us, diving into these sources, it reveals details that are both unexpected and incredibly poignant.
So the sources tell us this all happened in Barangay Bagantape, Malang, Cotabato, Philippines. The date was December 10th, 2021. The victims were Crizel Gwen Maguad, she was 18, a nursing student, and her 16-year-old brother, Chris Louis, known as Boy Boy. He was a grade 10 student. Their parents, Cruz and Lavella Maguad, they were both public school teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the narrative, it really starts building a few months earlier, right? Back in July 2021. Through their daughter Gwen's church activities, the Maguads met a 16-year-old working student. Her name was Janice Sebial. Gwen apparently felt this really strong desire to help Janice finish her studies. She believed Janice was an orphan. The parents, though, understandably, they had some hesitation initially, and one source really highlights the mother, Lavella, having this distinct gut feeling about it.
Yeah, that gut feeling. Despite that initial reservation, though, they eventually agreed. They let Janice stay with them. And the sources, especially that parents' interview, they really shed light on the motivation here. They saw it as an act of, well, profound compassion, almost like a mission from God, especially for them as educators, this idea of wanting to save this young person.
But that act of kindness, it took a dark and worrying turn pretty quickly. The sources mention a pretty significant incident in August. Janice allegedly stole over $10,000 from the family.
Right. And it was Gwen, their daughter, who actually discovered the money. It was hidden, sewn into Janice's backpack.
Wow. Okay, so what happened then?
Well, this was a crucial moment, according to the parents. Lavella, the mother, she wanted Janice to leave immediately after that. Made sense. But their daughter, Gwen, consistent with her charitable nature, she pleaded for Janice, asked for a second chance for her.
So the parents were caught.
Exactly. Caught between their own instincts, that gut feeling, and wanting to support their daughter's empathy. They ultimately agreed. Janice stayed. It just shows how much they prioritized Gwen's wishes, really, even against their own strong intuition and, clear evidence of deceit.
Okay, so fast forward now to December 10th, 2021, around 2:00 p.m. The father, Cruz, he gets this worrying call from a neighbor reporting unusual activity at their house. He rushes home, and he's met with just a horrific scene. Boy, the son, found gagged, bound, beaten to death. His sister, Crizel Gwen, she'd suffered a shocking number of stab wounds, 32 of them.
32. And the sources confirm household tools were used as weapons, a knife, a baseball bat, a hammer, a machete. It's a detail from that blog post that just emphasizes the brutality, the personal nature of the attack.
It's just awful, and the only other person there.
Janice, right. She initially claimed she survived a home invasion, said she hid in the bathroom while masked men attacked the siblings. The sources even note she posted a Facebook status during the incident, something like, "Please help us."
But investigators started seeing red flags almost immediately, didn't they?
Oh, straight away.
Yeah.
The sources point out, look, there were no signs of forced entry anywhere in the house. Janice's behavior seemed off. She was reportedly changing her Facebook profile, posting these ambiguous updates even as this tragedy was unfolding. And the crime blog details, they highlight how her hiding place just seemed implausible for someone trying to actually escape detection. Plus, the perpetrator or perpetrators seemed to have had time to wash up, change clothes, try to hide them. It just wasn't adding up to a random home invasion.
Okay, so the story wasn't holding water.
Yeah.
What broke it open?
Tangible evidence, really. Bloodstained clothing was discovered near an irrigation canal. Fingerprints found on the murder weapons matched Janice. And here's a detail straight from the parents in their interview, showing how important their own search was. A Newsline Philippines reporter who was visiting the house actually helped them find IDs hidden under Janice's bed.
IDs. Hidden under her bed. That must have been an absolute shock. So, not just Janice's ID.
Exactly. One ID was hers, yes. But there were also two others. Belonging to male accomplices, that discovery was huge.
I bet. And it was after those ideas were presented to her. That's when it all came out.
That's right. 6 days after the murders, everything broke open. Janice confessed. She stated her motive was just incredibly chilling, pure envy and hatred toward the siblings. She also named a co-conspirator, Esmeraldo Cañedo Jr., described as an altar boy. Because both were minors, they were initially taken into the custody of the DSWD, the Department of Social Welfare and Development.
Envy and hatred.
Yeah.
Wow. Did the sources, like the parents' interview, elaborate on that motive?
Yeah, they did. Janice's confession and the parents' interview really delved into this. The mother, Lavella, she shared she'd long had a hunch, that Janice was manipulative, maybe fabricating stories, especially after Janice started reporting these minor conflicts, particularly involving Boy, the son. Lavella even worried Janice might eventually make false accusations against her husband or son because of behavior she observed, like Janice wearing short shorts around Cruz, the father. But the core motive, from Janice's own admission and corroborated by the parents' observations, was this intense jealousy directed squarely at Gwen.
So the feeling was Janice essentially wanted to be Gwen, making Gwen the primary target.
That seems to be it. And boy, according to the confessions, he was tragically just collateral damage. He came home unexpectedly, saw the accomplice Janice had let into the house, and that sealed his fate.
Oh, that's just devastating.
And the blog post adds another disturbing layer. It highlights that Janice was apparently a fan of the movie The Orphan.
Oh, that psychological thriller about the adopted girl.
Yeah. That's the one. The girl who turns out to be a dangerous killer. And Janice had apparently even suggested her adopted father watch it. It's a chilling connection the sources draw.
Definitely chilling. Okay, what about the legal side? They were minors.
How did that work?
Right, that's a key point.
Ooh.
Even though both Janice and her co-accused were minors, the court made a crucial determination about Janice specifically. She was found to have acted with discernment. Discernment. Okay, what does that mean legally in the Philippines?
It's a really important legal concept there for minors. It means the court determined she understood the consequences, the wrongfulness of her actions, which allowed her to be held criminally liable under their Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, despite being under 18.
Got it. And the outcome, the sentencing.
On May 17, 2022, the regional trial court convicted both Janice and Esmeraldo of double murder. They were sentenced to an indefinite period, 22 to 37 years of imprisonment. While they remained under DSWD custody initially, the parents shared in their interview that since they've reached the appropriate age, they are now being held in a standard penal facility, the Davao Penal Colony.
Okay, and the public reaction, I imagine it was huge.
Oh, absolutely massive. Predictably, this case triggered significant public outrage. The hashtag Justice for Maguad siblings trended widely online. Huge outpouring of sympathy for the grieving parents, naturally. And the case also raised these broader concerns, about informal adoptions and perceptions of potential shortcomings in child welfare systems.
And the media adaptation. You mentioned that earlier, Malala Mokaya.
Yeah, NMK. In May 2025, it was featured in a two-part episode called The Silent House. This adaptation specifically focused on the emotional impact of the tragedy on the Maguad family. And while it got positive feedback for portraying familial trust and grief, ABS-CBN, the network, did put out a statement. They addressed concerns from the adoption community that the portrayal might inadvertently reinforce harmful stereotypes about adopted children, which is, a valid concern to raise.
Right, a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Why did the parents decide to participate in that adaptation in the interview you mentioned?
It seems it was driven by a desire to share their story, hoping it could help them process their grief, maybe find some meaning in the tragedy. They shared that their grieving became almost unbearable around 2 years after the crime, and they hoped by sharing, maybe a deeper message could emerge. Interestingly, they couldn't bring themselves to watch the second part of the episode, the part that depicted the crime itself. Just too painful.
Completely understandable. That interview must offer some really personal insights.
Incredibly personal. They talk about continuing to live in the house where the murders took place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because just heartbreakingly, it holds their children's memories. It was the home they built for them. The father, Cruz, the one who discovered the scene, he works most of the time. It's his way to cope. Lavella described her terrifying feeling when she got that call from the neighbor and the utter devastation upon hearing the news. She's grateful, she said, that her husband prevented her from seeing the immediate aftermath.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And finding out after 6 days that Janice, someone they'd brought into their home out of kindness, was responsible. The sources really emphasized this inflicted an even deeper wound than the initial shock of the tragedy. Lavella's initial hunch, that gut feeling, turned into this wave of just shock and pain. She shared a particularly raw detail about seeing Janice in court, describing her appearance as, beautiful, even seemingly dressed up, and she starkly contrasted that with the state of her children's bodies. In that moment, she said she felt this profound sense of insecurity and immense sadness for her children.
That's incredibly powerful and sad. It's truly remarkable how they've handled the aftermath then. You mentioned they chose not to harbor anger.
Yeah, it's really something. Despite experiencing unimaginable pain, and they admit to an initial desire for revenge before they knew who the killer was, they consciously chose not to seek vengeance after the truth came out. They believe holding on to that anger would prevent their children's souls from being at peace. Their faith and the hope of reuniting with their children in heaven, that's what they say sustains them. It prevents them from becoming criminals themselves through hate, as they put it. That deliberate choice, highlighted so clearly in their interview, it's just a powerful insight into their character amidst all this.
Absolutely. And they're channeling that into something positive now.
They are. They're now deeply dedicated to honoring Criswell Gwynn and Criswell Lewis's memory. They do this through charity work, specifically helping less fortunate youth with school projects mirroring their own children's charitable spirits. And they've also become strong advocates for changes in the juvenile justice and welfare system.
Ah, okay, because of their experience.
Exactly. The sources convey their belief that there were implementation errors by the agencies involved. They criticize how Janice, who had spent a significant part of her life in a facility, was released at 16 without, in their view, adequate monitoring, especially regarding her choice to prioritize a boyfriend over her studies. So they're pushing for systemic fixes driven by this heartbreaking belief that these failures contributed to the tragedy that took their children.
Wow. This deep dive, pulling together details from these, distinct sources from that initial act of kindness, the family background, through the horrific events, uncovering the truth, the legal outcomes, and just the powerful, raw perspective of the Maguad parents. It really gives you a comprehensive understanding. Much more than just a news report. You've seen the sequence, the confessed motives, specific investigative details, and heard directly from the hearts of the victims' parents, their intentions, their instincts, their grief, their resilience, and their ongoing fight for justice and change.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, and looking at this through the lens of the sources, especially the parents' critique of the system's implementation alongside that legal concept of minors acting with discernment. Well, it raises a really important question for you, the listener, to consider. How should a society truly balance the goals of rehabilitation for young offenders, especially those deemed capable of understanding their actions, with the need for accountability for such, truly heinous crimes? And maybe even more fundamentally, what does justice really mean for victims' families in circumstances as heartbreaking as these?
It's definitely something to think about long after our deep dive is done. Thank you for joining us for this difficult, but I think important exploration of these sources, and for reflecting on the really multifaceted nature of trust, consequence, and resilience revealed in this tragic case.